I'm joined here by Kathy Calvin, who is the president of the UN Foundation. What a pleasure to have you here.
Ah, Shishi. I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Beautiful weather.
What a day. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Since you are working for UN Foundation, Kathy, let me ask you. President Trump of the United States has said the United Nations is not necessarily going to be, in many ways, necessary. So what do you think, as someone who based in the United States and been working on the UN Foundation for a long time?
Well, I think President Trump puts the emphasis on getting America first. But I think he's beginning to realize that getting America first means working in collaboration with all the other world powers.
What sign is giving you that kind of indication?
Well, I think he's recognized when he spoke at the UN in September that there is a body there that can help move U.S. interests forward, the same way other countries see it. And while he has been very clear that he thinks putting policies in place to support our policies first, I think he recognizes the UN can help, can give him some of the tools for making sure there's prosperity around the world, helping share the burden of all the work that the U.S. does around the world to make sure people are fed and housed and taken care of. So we're hoping that his ambassador, Nikki Haley, is getting that message through to him because we think his message is softening.
Okay, interesting. So that is one of the signs you are looking at.
Yes.
But one of the things is the United States is withdrawing, according to some, from the rest of the world.
Right.
And also withdrawing from the previous practices of dealing with the rest of the world. Yes, for example. So what would that mean when it comes to the United Nations role of the world? Because the United Nations is supposed to be a multilateral platform and is supposed to help solve the problem, with the United States playing an important part, just as many other countries.
Well, I think we've seen that President Trump, when he wants to, can come to the UN to get support, perhaps for the work that we're doing in Syria or the work that's happening in Africa. He has asked for the Security Council.
Or the DPRK issue.
Or the DPRK issue. So I think he has shown that he understands there's value, just the same way other countries, China included, see value in the United Nations as that body where people can come, share their ambitions and visions, and find support. But not everybody wins every time.
But you always argue that he is a business person, right? So business person sometimes come in when there is interest. When there is not that much, they would leave. So will a national leadership also act that way?
Well, first of all, our Congress has shown great support for continuing the work with the United Nations. They took his budget and said goodbye and created a budget that was very much like last year's budget. So we see that as a good sign that Republican members of Congress want to continue these policies. We also know that trade is a challenging policy, and we think this is going to take a little bit longer to sort out. But where the UN is concerned, I think we will find, when the president even comes to Davos tomorrow, we may hear him say a word or two about the importance of working with other nations.
Oh, we've already got some inside information going on?
Well, I don't know that I have any, but I have a bet that if he comes here, he'll at least acknowledge how important that is. I mean, this is a man who does like to make a good deal, and we believe the UN is a good deal for America.
The United States has been playing an instrumental role since the beginning of the United Nations system and also the global system. Now, of course, things have been going ups and downs for quite some time. So, Kathy, you've been working for the UN Foundation for decades.
Yes.
So you've seen different kinds of leadership inside the United States. You've also seen their close, faraway relationship with the UN. So how should we understand this? Is this a hiccup, or actually this is something that is of a general trend we're seeing in the United States?
Well, we do polling all the time of the American people.
Can we trust polling now?
Well, I trust my polling.
Okay, so tell me what exactly is it about.
So two things that we see. We see that young people actually really value the collaborative opportunities that the UN provides, and they want to see their country stay engaged on the world stage. Second, I think America does go in phases. There are times when we are a very free trade nation, and there are times when we are a fair trade nation. And I think we're going through some of those phases right now. I find that Mr. Trump often says things that are fairly extreme in order to, as a deal maker, find that middle ground later. So I'm hoping that's the posture that we're in right now.
So you think that is his style?
I hope that that's his style.
Argue more and eventually come to a balance.
I hope that is it.
As he sees it.
Yes. Yes.
The United Nations Foundation was founded by Ted Turner.
Yes.
One of the very legendary figure, I would say, and also certainly an outlier of his generation.
Yes.
So people would argue, why is it? I mean, an outlier of his generation would like to establish an organization called the UN Foundation, and yet an outlier of political leadership right now is going a very different direction. So how do you see this dramatic differences?
Well, actually, when Ted announced a $1 billion gift,
yes, he did.
20 years ago,
it was quite a news.
It was quite big news, and it was news for two reasons. The amount was incredible. No one had done that. Bill Gates hadn't, Warren Buffett hadn't, some of the new Chinese entrepreneurs hadn't. Yeah. But he saw the same thing. It was a fractured world. People in the United States were frustrated with the UN, and he said, rather than walk away, I want to hold hands together, because I think further engagement is the answer, not abandoning it. And he said also, I look around and I see a world of neighbors, not strangers. So I want the UN to do that. He felt the UN was instrumental in ending World War II and wanted to make sure that we never had another world war.
But the thing is, we have changed so much.
We have changed so much. But the constant that we see is that at the end of the day, if there isn't a place where the countries of the world can come together and argue their differences, we will be a worse off world.
We see a lot of phenomena, Kathy. You know, for example, on the very surface, you see the rise of nationalism, you see populism, you see immigration issues, you see the debates between the extreme right and also the extreme left. But the question is, fundamentally, has the logic of the world changed? I think that is the fundamental question we should really ask ourselves.
Well, the other change that I think is really fundamental is that we've gone from top down to bottom up. The technology in everyone's hands, in billions of people's hands, allows them to share their views, get the information they want, and engage in governance in a totally different way. So not only the United Nations, but every government has to adjust to that. And we're seeing that. We saw a trust barometer released here at Davos this week that showed, interestingly, trust in the United States is very low. Trust in China is actually on the rise. We need to listen to our populations and find out what's working for them and what information they want from governments. Governments have to make some pretty big changes. And the UN is trying to do what it can. It's undertaking a lot of reforms to recognize those changes.
People are saying too slow, too little.
Well, I think that's true for probably any government right now. It's very difficult to make it happen, but they're trying. And I give the new Secretary General, he's only been in office for a year, some time to get that done.
But the question is, at the point we are talking about it, things are happening. Hotspot issues, for example, crisis. And also a new vision needs to be collectively created through a platform that has to include everybody. So here comes the thing, when you have questions about the UN also has to function. That is the ultimate dilemma. I interviewed the Secretary General, Mr. Guterres, and certainly he touched on that point too. But the thing is, how can you work that out?
Well, I hope he said the following, that we don't have a choice. And that is the goal, but we have to make it easier, and we have to make it, the United Nations doesn't run the world. It is the place where those who are coming together to make the change. He needs to create the environment where they can make that happen.
You know, Kathy, we talk a lot about leadership. We talk about the generational change of leadership. What do you consider, you know, with the theme of common future, shared future in a fractured world, the best and the most important quality of leadership today?
Listening. I think if a leader can't listen and can't see that people are different and we need inclusion and we need diversity in the way we approach our problems, will not succeed. So a leader has to start by listening. And I think the best leaders do. They're very open to ideas, to suggestions, and then they're able to make decisions.
You know what, Kathy? I think that is a great suggestion. Well, that's for whoever is now in that chair. So thank you so much.
Thank
Kathy
you.
Coben, who is the president of the UN Foundation.